They're not good enough to start. They're not even good enough to play. But they do talk a good game. So come join Lou and Jose from the sidelines where all the best sports discussions happen anyway. Welcome in to the Benchwarmerz podcast.
Welcome into the program, everybody. I am Lou Ruggieri. That is Jose Ortiz. And this is the Benchwarmerz podcast. Wherever, whenever, and however you happen to be listening, we appreciate you taking some time to spend it with us. Hopefully, it's been worth your while thus far. Hour one flew by, as they tend to do. We went this week in sports. We talked about LeBron James and LaMelo Ball both being injured. We touched on kind of Deshaun Watson's crazy week of headlines. We touched on all of the NFL free agency things going on and kind of give you a brief synopsis of each of those. You can go find them. We're on the iHeartRadio podcasting. We're on Apple Podcasts, Google Play. You can find us on YouTube, Spotify, Facebook, Instagram, all the Benchwarmers podcast, at the BW Pod on Twitter. We're everywhere and anywhere you get your podcasts. So stick with us. So coming up very shortly, I've been looking forward to this all pretty much for a very long time. Actually, I'm not even going to tell you how long it's been because it's been a while. I've been looking forward to this. So March Madness is here, and we are celebrating in Benchwarmer style by doing brackets, but not the traditional college basketball brackets. We're doing breakfast cereal brackets because we can. So, but before we do that, Jose, we have to go around the NBA and kind of talk and get everyone kind of caught up on all things NBA this week. And so to start off, we'll just jump right into it. PJ Tucker was traded from Houston to the Bucks. The Rockets have lost, I believe it's 20 straight games now.
Yeah.
And yeah, this deal, I don't know. Thoughts on this deal? The deal was PJ Tucker and I forget, how do you say, I still don't know how to pronounce this guy's name. Rodions
Kurucs.
Yeah.
Rodions Kurucs.
Okay, so
I'm just guessing. I have no idea.
Well, it sounded better than what I got. To the Bucks, DJ Augustin and DJ Wilson, and the Bucks 2023 first-round pick to the Rockets. I believe the Rockets have about 6,000 picks stockpiled now from various teams in the last couple months. So, any thoughts on this? I mean, the Bucks. Does this make the Bucks better? And I don't think it can make Houston any worse. Honestly, they're just god awful.
Yeah. First of all, it's DJ Augustin. He's probably most well known for playing alongside Kevin Durant in Texas when he was in college. But it's I'm going to just sit here and say, I'm going to be honest. I'm not a basketball expert. So what I'm going to say might sound a little bit ignorant here, but I just don't understand why PJ Tucker has so much value. The guy to me is a glorified role player. He's never averaged more than 10 points per game. Never averaged more than 7 rebounds per game. Not a lot of steals or blocks. I just don't get it. I'm looking at this player. I'm just like I'm looking at his numbers. I'm trying to figure out where the value is, and I'm not seeing it. And obviously, he was highly sought after, so a lot of teams saw the value. More power to the Rockets. I think they have 7 first-round picks. They've acquired 7 first-round draft picks this season, and they're losing like crazy. So that's how you rebuild. I don't think this really moves the needle for the Bucks at all to me.
Yeah, for his career, PJ Tucker averages 7.2 points per game, 5.7 rebounds per game, and 1.4 assists. For the 2020-2021 season, in 33 games, he's averaged 4.3 points, 4.6 rebounds, and 1.4 assists. And he's shooting a 36% field goal percentage. So it's hard to say anything other than what you just did in like where is this value? What are we not seeing?
Yeah, I don't know.
Do you know what PJ stands for, by the way?
No, I do not. I
found this the other day. I was very curious when I saw this trade. PJ stands for Pops Jr.
Huh.
Yep.
I would have. If you had given me 100 guesses, I would have never gotten that.
That's probably the most interesting about PJ Tucker this year is finding out what PJ stands for.
I mean, maybe it's something like, we were talking about cornerbacks in the last show, where maybe there's some value.
Yeah, he might be a defensive monster. I don't know. I have not watched enough Rockets games to really kind of give a full synopsis of PJ Tucker's skills. I know that the games that I've seen him play have not been terribly impressive. That's pretty much the extent of my analysis on PJ Tucker at this point.
Looks like an average player. That's all.
The Rockets are 11-30, by the way, right now. So
this is how you tank.
Yeah.
Like, this is how you tank. You get rid of all your best players, you lose a whole bunch of games, and then you hope that you get the number one pick.
Yeah. So moving on around the NBA, the Atlanta Hawks have won 8 straight games. They are currently 4th in the East. Are the Atlanta Hawks something to worry about?
Something to worry about. Yeah, I mean, they'll probably make a playoff run. I don't know. I mean, playoff run. They'll make the playoffs. I don't know about their ability to actually win a postseason series. So from that standpoint, I wouldn't say they're anything to worry about. But what I will say is this. They've been picking on some bad or wounded teams. If you look at their last 8 wins, there haven't been the most impressive wins in the world. But they're still currently in first place in the Southeast Division. I think the most impressive thing to me that they've done on this run is that Trae Young hasn't had to be superhuman. He hasn't had to put up Luka Doncic type numbers for them to get, where they are. He's only averaging, he's averaging 21.6 points per game, 9.1 assists per game during the stretch. These are great numbers, but they're not like, he's not playing superhuman and they're still winning. So perhaps they're just kind of getting better at the right time, but I wouldn't be too worried about them in the postseason.
Yeah, and I did notice this early before the season started. Some of the moves that they made, some of the moves that the Atlanta Hawks made. Obviously, Trae Young's there; he's a monster. But they also acquired Rajon Rondo, who is who is a leader. I mean, you can say what you want. Yeah. Playoff Rondo is a real thing. Clint Capella is there. I was wondering where Clint Capella went earlier in the season before the season started, and then I found him on the Hawks. He was a solid. Speaking of people that left Houston, he was a solid player. Cam Reddish looks good, okay. Not great yet, but he's very young. So, Danilo Gallinari's there, and they also have Bogdanovic, and it's a outside of Trae Young, there's no one that's going to blow you away from a scoring perspective. But there does seem like there is kind of a potential for a good chemistry team here.
Well, yeah, if they can stick with it, the kind of what we've seen with the Utah Jazz and even to some extent with the Phoenix Suns, where you just have a couple good players and you just stick with it and you build on it instead of trying to blow it up and change it all the time. So we'll see what they do.
Yep. And speaking of teams that had good chemistry and then didn't have good chemistry, the Raptors have lost 7 straight. They are currently 17-24. They are 11th in the East. And what is going on with the Raptors?
Well, first of all, let's update this. They've lost 8 straight, and then 17-25.
Oh yeah, I didn't see
that. It's okay. It's hard to keep up with all the futility happening in the Eastern Conference. As far as what's happening with them, they don't have really good players. Like we both, and I don't mean any disrespect towards Fred Van Vliet. We both thought that he's a good player, not a great player. Yep. Pascal Siakam is a good player. We thought maybe had a chance to be great. Doesn't look like it right now. I just think this is a team that didn't get better. They didn't really make moves to improve themselves. Like if you just look at their roster from when they won the championship 2 years ago to now, the biggest change is that they don't have Kawhi Leonard, right? Like there's not really any upgrades that they made. So it's hard for them to improve. I think that they're officially done. And they just need to get lucky and hope that they get a good draft pick and that maybe they can get a star in the draft this year because they obviously need a number 1 top dog player on that team badly.
Yeah, I think we all kind of thought Pascal Siakam was going to be that guy to step up, and he just really hasn't. And Van Vliet he's a 2, he's not a 1. Kyle Lowry, we see kind of flashes of brilliance, but it just feels like since, we saw Nick Nurse, who was a 50-win team. They basically sold their soul to the devil and got Kawhi Leonard. They rented him for a year. They won their championship, and now they're seeing the consequences of that move because, just watching the team. I was watching the Spurs the other day, and I was like, I wonder what the Raptors would be like if DeMar DeRozan was still there. He seems like he'd be a good fit because
Well, yeah, I mean, DeMar DeRozan, he's
he's
an
not
okay
great,
player.
but
I honestly think that the Raptors need to look at moving Kyle Lowry right now in a trade. The trade deadline's coming up on the 25th, at 3 days from now, or 2 days, I should say.
Yeah.
And no, 3 days, I was right. And they need to really look at trading him and trying to get something. I mean, get a first round pick, get a second round pick, get whatever you can while you can, because Kyle Lowry is not getting any younger.
Yeah.
He still has value. He can still contribute to a championship team. I wish we could. I think we need to really sit down and really analyze their season to think about what's gone wrong. Their inability to re-sign Kawhi Leonard a couple of years back, and then their inability to kind of replace him with a number one scoring option on that team.
DeRozan, by the way, for the record, is he's averaging 20 points a game this season. By the way, so he'd be a good upgrade.
I think he left before they got Kawhi Leonard. I think he left a couple of years before they got Kawhi Leonard. I'm not 100% sure about that.
Well, I think he was part of the. He left right before. That was part of the whole deal.
Okay. All right.
But yeah, so either way, ancient history. So good luck, Raptors. The Phoenix Suns, currently first place in the Pacific Division. They're ahead of the Lakers and Clippers. Are the Suns for real?
Yes. The Suns were a team that and they're my highlight of the week, actually. They're a team that I identified early in the offseason as really being better than people were going to expect them to be. They showed promise last year in the bubble. Then, they happened to fall just short, but they showed promise. I think they won all 8 of the games in the bubble. Then they go this offseason, they add Chris Paul. DeAndre Ayton's been healthy. And Devin Booker continues to prove that he belongs in the discussion for a top 10 to 15 NBA player, if not better. They are going to be a problem this postseason. So this is not a team that you want to face right now in the postseason. I would be very worried about the Phoenix Suns.
What I thought was interesting was that the head coach, Monty Williams, was actually the coach of Luka before the draft. And when Monty Williams became the coach of the Suns, they had the number 1 pick overall in that draft. And Williams passed on picking Doncic in place of DeAndre Ayton, which, DeAndre Ayton's a good player, don't get me wrong, but yeah, I wonder what the Suns would look like right now if you took out Ayton and you put Luka on that team, and just how much more dangerous they would even be than they are already.
Yeah, it's an interesting thought, because then they probably wouldn't have made the trade for CP3. Luka is a great player. I do sometimes, I don't want to take anything away from him because he's a great player, but I do sometimes feels like he plays with a little bit of I don't know. It's like a really, really fast car, but that's maybe doesn't have the control per se. I'm trying to think of a good example. Yeah, from the great hit in the turns. Just sometimes I just feel like he's not very controlled, and
that's fair.
And can that work? Of course it can work, because when you're a ridiculously great athlete, you can do whatever you want, right? But sometimes I look at Luka and I'm just I feel like I wish you would take it down a gear or two sometimes, and not always be just full speed ahead.
So you gave your highlight, which is the Phoenix Suns. Did you want to give your low light?
Yeah, my low light of the week is an easy one. It's LeBron James' injury. It's bigger than just with the Lakers. LeBron James, to me, is still the face of the NBA, and he's been an Iron Man, as you pointed out earlier in the show. For the NBA to be without him for a month, this is what I'm reading, about a month as the minimum, and then the chance that the Lakers could miss the playoffs and LeBron not be in the postseason, this is absolutely a low light for me.
Yeah, my low light for the week, we just found out today, Elgin Baylor died today. Details are still a little sketchy at the moment, but Elgin Baylor, obviously we had not ever seen him play in person. He played for the Minneapolis / Los Angeles Lakers from 1958 to 1971. Just a brief overview of his career achievements. He was a career 27.4 per game points per game player, 13.5 rebounds per game, and 4.3 assists per game. He was an 11-time All-Star. He was an All-Star Game MVP. He was a 10-time All-NBA first-team player. I mean, he's got 23,000 points, 11,000 rebounds. I mean, he was a monster, and it's just sad to see him go because it's nobody wants to get old and die. So sorry, Elgin. Just a shame. Another good player. But my highlight, actually, and this segues nicely into our next segment. My highlight is actually not NBA related, but it is basketball related. And I wanted to kind of just give a shout out to Rutgers, who after 38 years finally made the tournament. And
wow.
They won on Friday. They lost on Sunday, so that was a very short run. But they did make the tournament for the first time in 38 years. And I work in downtown New Brunswick, and let me tell you, they were celebrating like it's been 38 years. So good for them. I'm happy that they got one game out of it. So that's my highlight of the week. And that's well. They went home is what they did on Sunday, but they so that's the nature of the tournament. We have our own tournament coming up, so we're gonna take a break and we're finally gonna get to this. March Madness is here, and we're celebrating by doing our own brackets, and it's not the college basketball brackets. We are doing breakfast cereal brackets because we like to talk things that we know. We know less about college basketball and more about breakfast cereals, so that's what we're gonna do. Round one of that is coming up next, so stick around. This is the Benchwarmerz Podcast.
If you're sick with COVID-19 or think you might have it, take steps to help protect other people from getting sick. Stay home except to get medical care. Call the doctor before visiting. Separate yourself from others who live with you. Wear a cloth face covering to protect others. Cover your coughs and sneezes with a tissue and clean your hands right away. Avoid sharing items with other people in your home. This includes things like towels and bedding. Be sure dishes are washed in hot water or the dishwasher before anyone else uses them. Stay aware of how you feel. If you start to have difficulty breathing or if you're worried about your health, call your doctor. For more tips, visit cdc.gov.
And now back to the Benchwarmers Podcast with Lou and Jose.
Welcome back to the program, everybody. I am still Lou Ruggieri. That is still Jose Ortiz. And you're still listening to the Benchwarmers Podcast. It's been a fun show thus far. Hopefully you're following along on the iHeartRadio podcasting app or Amazon Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube. We're on Facebook, Instagram, at the Benchwarmers Podcast, at the BW Pod on Twitter. Follow us along. The Benchwarmers website is coming very, very soon, so stay tuned for that. It's going to be a lot of fun. The show's been a lot of fun thus far. This is our week 47. We're coming up on our year anniversary. Jose, I don't know what we're going to do for that, but we'll get there. We'll figure it out when we get there. We touched on a lot of things in the first hour. We went around this week in sports, LeBron James, LaMelo Ball, Deshaun Watson. We touched on the NFL free agency. The top of this hour, the second hour, we went around the NBA. We kind of touched on the questionable PJ Tucker trade, along with some of the standings as they sit right now. Highlight, lowlight of the week, little Elgin Baylor tribute. And now it is time. It's March Madness, and we are a sports show. But we don't like to be a disingenuous sports show. So we try to keep it to topics that we feel we can give you some information on. We like to kind of stay with things that we feel like we know better than things we don't, because not only is it more fun to talk about, but honestly, nobody wants to hear us break down lacrosse or field hockey. There's other shows for that kind of stuff. We're doing a little more play in the hits. So that being said, college basketball everybody gets into college basketball for 1 month every year, and then it goes away and we forget about it. And, we talked a lot about this over, the coming weeks, because knowing, we're going to have March Madness again, because the entire world took a year off from March Madness last year. We decided to take it and switch it up a little bit. And instead of doing a traditional bracket and kind of going through our brackets, it's almost like fantasy football in a way where it's like, hey, look at my team. And no one cared. People only care about their own bracket and their own team in fantasy football, or their own bracket in March Madness. No one cares about anybody else's bracket. So we decided to put that and shelf that. So instead, we decided to bring out a bracket that we feel is a lot more relatable and a lot more fun, quite honestly. So we decided to put 32 of the top breakfast cereals in the world against each other, round by round. And for the first round, the 32, we didn't do 64 because that is a little overwhelming logistically. So we started at 32. And Jose and I are going to break down the first round by ourselves. We're going to kind of pick winners and losers because it's going to be pretty easy matchups. There's going to be a lot of blowouts, things like that. After this round, the Sweet 16, the 8, grade 8, the Final Four, and the championship round, we're going to ask for votes, probably via Facebook, most likely. So we'll always have a tiebreaker. So it'll be my vote, Jose's vote, and then sort of the audience vote. So we always have someone moving on without having any sort of controversy. So with that being said, Jose, it is time for March Madness, Benchwarmerz style, and this is the Breakfast Cereal Brackets round 1. So let's get right into the matchups.
All right, so I'm going to go ahead and jump right into it. I think some of these first round matchups are going to be a little bit more difficult than you might think, and I'm just I'll acquiesce from time to time, because I'm, with cereals, it's very subjective. It's what were you eating in your house when you were growing up? That's really right. What's going to boil down to for a lot of these. But let's just go right into it. Matchup number 1: Wheaties versus Rice Krispies.
Wheaties versus I'm going to go Rice Krispies on this one just because I was never I like the Wheaties box. I always wanted to be on the cover, which obviously that's never going to happen, but never a big fan of the actual cereal itself.
Don't sell yourself short, buddy. Yeah, first of all, you can still be on the Wheaties box, but no, a Rice Krispies all the way. Wheaties has been a little overrated to me. It's an okay cereal.
I agree.
Not that good. All right, moving on. This is our first tough one, I think, here. Count Chocula against Reese's Puffs.
Wow. That is tough. Count Chocula, we never had a lot of Count Chocula. For whatever reason, the grocery stores around my house growing up didn't have a lot of Count Chocula. The Reese's Puffs, I'm going to let you vote first on this one, actually, because I'm torn. I'm honestly genuinely torn on this one.
So I'm going to go with Reese's Puffs here because Count Chocula, it's tough. It's tough for me. I like Count Chocula, but I think I'm just more partial to the flavor of Reese's. And so as a result, I love the chocolate milk and all the stuff that happens. So I'm just, it's a close one. I wouldn't be like, oh man, you got Count Chocula, get out of my house. No, but I'm going to side with Reese's Puffs.
So full disclosure, Jose, I went out to the food store this week in preparation for this actual segment right now because it's
why am I not surprised?
It's all about content. And I will tell you that one of the cereals I have in my cabinet right now is Reese's Puffs because I forgot what they tasted like, and I'm going to agree with you. Reese's Puffs going to move on.
Okay. Up next is Golden Grams versus Apple Jacks.
Ooh, this is like a battle of this is like an 8-9 seed. This is like
a blue blood. This is like Duke versus Kentucky or something like that in the first round somehow.
I think I'm leaning.
I'll tell you right now, I'm leaning Golden Grams. Golden Grams to me is the clear winner. Apple Jacks are great. I really feel like I should have put them in a different spot now, but I'm leaning Golden Grams.
I'm kind of feeling the Apple Jacks though, because Golden Grams to me, they were always good the first bowl, and then the day after I had Golden Grams, I didn't want Golden Grams anymore.
Okay,
but
listen, I'm willing to give a little, right? So there's no way we're going to go through 16 matchups and completely agree on everything, right? So you want Apple Jacks? If you want Apple Jacks to be,
I think Apple Jacks is the winner here. I think Golden Grams are good, but they're not. They're just. I feel like they went up for a 3-pointer at the buzzer, and it just clanked. I don't know. It's as close a game as you're going to get in the first round. But
we haven't gone to the other ones. There's a couple other ones that are here. So hold your horses on that. That was just match 3.
Up to
We're going to let Apple Jacks move on in a buzzer beater to the Sweet 16. It was close. Yeah. But
this is why we're going to ask for votes as these matchups get harder and harder because
Apple Jacks they made the plays right down the stretch to get the win here. Now we're going to go to one I think will be easy: Cinnamon Toast Crunch versus Life.
Oh, blowout! Come on,
Cinnamon Toast Crunch.
Cinnamon Toast Crunch.
I feel like I should at least say the sentence. I shouldn't just assume you're a healthy guy. You might.
Well, I will say, it's funny that you bring that up, because I will say that judging, just looking over the first round and some of these cereals, health does factor in a little bit to some of the votes that I had going through our first round bracket, whereas in the past, none of that would have mattered whatsoever as a kid. Like, the more sugar, the better. But some of those factors have crept in with some of my voting. So I will say that is something to take into consideration. But this is a blowout. I mean, life should just be happy they made the tournament. I mean, that's not even close. That's a 1 versus an 8. That's not even close. Absolutely.
Fruit Loops versus Grape Nuts.
So here, if the matchup was putting the cereals in milk the night before you were going to eat them, I think Grape Nuts would be a 1 seed. But as it stands right now, Grape Nuts is a lot like the team that I referenced earlier, Rutgers. They should just be happy that they made the tournament. And, a first round bow out is going to be what they're going to do, because Grape Nuts don't really, how they made it here is beyond me, but they made it to the first round and they should be happy for that much.
Listen, they won their conference tournament. They got an automatic bid. And but Fruit Loops is clearly the superior cereal. It's not close.
Grape Nuts. No one else is doing that today, by the way. Grape Nuts is the Rutgers of breakfast cereal.
We have a really interesting matchup here coming up, and I'm not sure how this is going to go here.
Okay.
Fruity Pebbles versus Trix.
Oh, man.
That to me was the matchup of the first round. That's the toughest matchup of the first round. I don't know if you want to come back to that one.
Fruity Pebbles versus Trix. No. Oh, boy. The
winner gets Fruit Loops in the next round. So.
Oh, my God. Wow. What? Jeez. Let's come back to it. That one I gotta have to think about that one.
You know what? I'm gonna take a break on our sugar cereals here a little bit, because I'm looking at the next ones that we have come up. There's some sugar cereals. Let's go ahead and go to some of these other ones here. We've got Cheerios versus Apple Cinnamon Cheerios.
What are the odds?
Yes.
Cheerios versus Apple Cinnamon Cheerios.
This is like Duke versus actually not Duke, North Carolina, but this is like
Ohio State
conference.
Apple Cinnamon Cheerios, maybe. I think, because Cheerios is sort of the blue blood. They're kind of the but if both of those things are in front of me, I'm grabbing the Apple Cinnamon Cheerios before the Cheerios.
You know what? I initially was going to choose Cheerios, but just what you just said right there is absolutely true. Like, if I were sitting at home and there was a box of Cheerios and a box of Apple Cinnamon Cheerios, there's no way on earth that I'm grabbing the Cheerios or the Apple Cinnamon Cheerios.
Yeah, I mean,
major upset. Apple Cinnamon Cheerios.
Yeah, that's tough. Wow. That's a first round draw. Wow, good. Yeah, jeez. Cheerios on Cheerios crime right there.
Captain Crunch versus Corn Flakes.
Which Captain Crunch?
Just regular Captain Crunch.
Regular Captain Crunch. We're going to alternate. I'm going to let you vote first on this one.
I'm going to take Captain Crunch here. Corn Flakes to me is like the most boring cereal on earth. So there's no way I could ever pick Corn Flakes to win anything, because
did think that I did factor in, and I guess wrongly so, now that you just said that, because Corn Flakes always had to have sugar put them on them because it was the most boring thing in the world. So I think based on that, because there is no sugar, there's no PEDs in the tournament. So I'm gonna go Captain Crunch.
Yeah, basically my Corn Flakes turned into Frosted Flakes. That's how I did it. And we'll be getting to Frosted Flakes later in this tournament here. All right, moving on here. This is an interesting matchup here. Honeycomb versus Raisin Bran. This is very interesting because it's like almost two different types of cereals.
It's funny right now. Part of my, as I said earlier in the show, I did some research at the food store and got some cereals for research purposes only, of course, because I have to reintroduce myself to some of these cereals. At this very moment, I have a box of Honeycomb and a box of Raisin Bran in my cabinet. Oh man, I can go first here if you want.
Yeah. So here's the thing. I initially was going to pick honeycomb.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking, but
I actually like Raisin Bran. So
yeah, okay.
I like the sugar on the Raisin Bran. Like there's a little sugar on the flakes. There's the raisins. I feel like it goes very well with milk. Honeycombs are nice too. Like I'm just really no disrespect to honeycomb. It's just I feel like Raisin Bran is a superior cereal.
You know, it's funny you say that because as I mentioned earlier, you know, health does factor in a little bit more now that I'm getting older, and the being satiated after eating breakfast is helpful, and there is a lot more fiber and things like that in Raisin Bran than there is in honeycomb. So, yeah, I'm with you. I think it's Raisin Bran. It's in an upset. I mean, it's
like an 8-9 upset though. I don't know if that's really like a major upset.
But honeycomb would have been, it would have been seeded higher. But it is close. It is close.
All right, here we go. Here, Chex versus Honey Nut Cheerios.
It's not even. I mean, this is a blowout to me. It's the Honey Nut Cheerios is not even. That's. Wait. Chex is just. I mean, it's like eating cardboard.
Okay, so we're both taking Honey Nut Cheerios. Okay, good. I just wanted to make.
100%. That's not
For
even.
For a second, I was like, oh no, we have an argument.
No, that's like a 40-point blowout. That's not even. That's not even.
That wasn't close.
Chex again. Chex should just be happy they made the tournament.
And it's actually interesting. I'm looking at this quadrant of the bracket right now, and with Cheerios out, I mean, it looks like that we could be heading for an Elite 8 Apple Cinnamon Cheerios versus Honey Nut Cheerios. But let's
Elite 8 ATE. Is that where we're going?
I'm sorry?
You said Elite 8 ATE. Is that where we're going with this?
Yeah, there you go. I like that. I didn't even think about that. That's good. It's good. All right. Here's an interesting one. Kix versus Special K.
I mean, just regular Special K.
Yeah, just regular Special K.
They had a raspberry version that was pretty good, but I think Kix. I'm going Kix all day, twice on Sunday.
Yep, that's easy. 1 second. Yes, that's.
I don't.
easy.
Yeah, I don't even think that was a very close game either. That was just kind of.
It wasn't
a blowout, but it was like a 10-point win.
It was like a type of game that was close at halftime. Everyone started getting worried that maybe Kix would get upset, and then Kix was like, "Wait a minute, we're Kix.
Yeah, let's go kick some.
We're getting tough here again. I think this is a tough one. This is a tough one here. Cocoa Puffs versus Pops.
So to me, I mean, Corn Pops was one of my brother's favorite cereals growing up. I was less so a fan of Corn Pops, and while contrarily, Cocoa Puffs was probably one of my top 2 favorite cereals growing up. So to me, this is an easy one, and it's Cocoa Puffs pretty handily. I
pick Cocoa Puffs too. It's a little closer to me. I feel like Pops are definitely among my favorite types of cereals, but it's hard to beat Cocoa Puffs.
It really was. They just got soggy so quickly. Yeah. The Corn Pops, and it's just because I liked to enjoy my cereal growing up, and I could never do it with Pops because if you didn't eat them, it just became this like mash of golden sponges. I don't know. It was frustrating.
Okay, that's fine. Moving on here. I think we have another blowout on our hands here, but let's see. Mm-hmm. Honey Bunches of Oats versus Lucky Charms.
Oh man, you know what's funny? I actually genuinely like Honey Bunches of Oats. Okay. I really do, and they're underrated. I think they're a very underrated cereal, and I kind of thought that they might have been one of the Cinderellas in this matchup. But Lucky Charms is just too. They're just. I mean, that's like Lucky Charms is like Kentucky. You know, they're just. Yeah. It's a 1 seed. There's no. It's a valiant effort by Honey Bunches of Oats, but just the talent and the sheer force of will that Lucky Charms has it was too much.
Yeah, Lucky Charms is a program that's won championship after championship. Honey Bunches of Oats, you know, they're a rising program, but they're not quite at that level yet. So
yeah, they're kind of like Baylor.
Yeah, it's a good one. And here is one that. I'm not really sure. This is more up your alley because you're Mr. Healthy, but Total versus Frosted Mini Wheats.
These are two. This is a bad matchup for both of them.
Yeah, this is like.
I mean, maybe it's a good matchup because they actually both have a chance here.
Well, yeah.
in fairness, my knee-jerk reaction is Total is gross. Mini wheats I like sometimes. So
Yeah.
by that sentiment, I'm gonna vote. My vote's gonna go towards frosted mini wheats. Probably has something to do with the frosting as well.
My frustrating part about the frosted mini wheats is, and I know this was part of the appeal, like only half of it tasted good. The other half was just disgusting. Now, but Total was totally disgusting, right?
Yeah.
It just still wins, but frosted mini wheats, it's like, just put the frosting on all sides. Like, what are you doing?
Yeah, and then it always became hard because you had to like break it up with your spoon, and sometimes it wouldn't come apart, and then it's like you're eating bales of hay at some point. But yeah, Total didn't even have half the cereal that was good. So yeah.
All right, we are down to 3 matchups remaining.
Okay.
All right, we're gonna go back to Fruity Pebbles versus Trix, and I have come up with Trix as the winner.
Yeah,
for me,
I think you're right.
The one thing, you actually touched on something that I feel like is really understated when talking about cereals, and it's the speed at which it becomes soggy, right? Yep. And then you just don't eat it. It doesn't eat that well. Fruity Pebbles, it's like the minute you pour milk on it,
yep,
it's immediately soggy. Like you've got like 30 seconds to just devour the bowl. If you don't, it's soggy. And so, to me, Trix, because of that, is the winner. So.
And Trix is just a slightly more milk-resistant version of Fruity Pebbles in my mind. So yeah, I think I agree with everything you just said. I don't even have anything else to add.
Okay. Frosted Flakes versus Cookie Crisp.
Come on.
This is a really tough.
This is like Duke UNC, man. This belongs in the Final Four, not in the first round. What the hell?
You can blame me, man. I was just throwing them in there.
Damn it! I'm gonna go Cookie Crisp because of this reasoning. Okay, I love Frosted Flakes. Don't get me wrong, I do. They're great. We talked about this. Corn Flakes plus sugar equals Frosted Flakes. Frosted Flakes were amazing. They're great, as it were. However, if there is a box of Cookie Crisp and a box of Frosted Flakes, both cereals are going to get eaten, but the Cookie Crisp is not making it to that second day. Frosted Flakes, there'll be a significant dent in it, but I would not be able to finish a box of Frosted Flakes in a single day. Cookie Crisp, you could just keep lining them up, and it would just be gone. So I hate to see Frosted Flakes get bounced in the first. This is a travesty. This is.
Listen, sometimes there's going to be
I feel bad saying that. I feel bad voting. Oh, God.
Here's the thing. I'm going to agree with you, Cookie Crisp, because of one reason here. One of the things that I like about certain cereals is that when you can just eat it as a snack, right? Hey, I don't have any milk. Oh, let me just get this Cookie Crisp and just eat it, right? It's like you're eating a box of cookies now.
Yeah.
It's got multiple purposes. Not only a cereal, it's a snack as well. So to me, the Cookie Crisp is definitely the clear winner there.
Yeah.
And Frosted Flakes is good, but it's just, it's we're talking cookies, like literally cookies.
It's a bad matchup. Just a bad matchup. Frosted Flakes easily could have been a Final Four team if just in a better, if Frosted Flakes was facing Chex or Total, it's a blowout. But it's Duke UNC first round.
Our last matchup of the first round: Honey Smacks versus Cocoa Pebbles. Now we just got Fruity Pebbles.
Yeah. Initially, my knee-jerk response to this, because Honey Smacks were good, but they were always weird to me. They kind of just they stuck together kind of oddly, and I don't know. I didn't like the frog on the box, and Cocoa Pebbles. While you are right in your analysis of Fruity Pebbles, in that you had a timetable of about 30 to 35 seconds to finish the bowl before they got completely soggy. Cocoa Pebbles, that timetable was never a problem. Not because they lasted any longer, but because I could eat them that fast.
Yeah, I feel like the chocolate milk was better than the strawberry milk or whatever that would be.
Yes, the multicolored, questionable milk, yeah.
Honey Smacks is a little overrated, too. Like, it's not a bad cereal. It's just a little overrated. Overrated. So yeah, Cocoa Pebbles in. And I'm just going to go ahead and read off. We're going to make sure this is posted up at some point tomorrow or late tomorrow after we post the show.
So this is going to be the Sweet 16 is coming up next week, which is sort of apropos with cereals. But go ahead. So run down the matchups to Sweet 16. Yep.
Rice Krispies versus Reese's Puffs. Apple Jacks versus Cinnamon Toast Crunch. Fruit Loops versus Trix. Cookie Crisp versus Cocoa Pebbles. Apple Cinnamon Cheerios versus Captain Crunch. Raisin Bran versus Honey Nut Cheerios. Kix versus Cocoa Puffs. And probably a preview of a big upset. I mean, not big, it was a big blowout. Lucky Charms versus Frosted Mini Wheats.
Wow.
But you never know.
Wow. We're going to put this out to vote.
We're going to put this out to vote. We're going to see where the public sentiment lies.
Yep.
And
Raisin Bran making the Sweet 16. Well, you never know what's going to happen in a bracket.
Yeah.
So all right. So go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I was going to say, and it's part of this is that we didn't go ahead and seed these cereals. We just kind of randomly placed them in the bracket and kind of let the chips fall where they may. So this is what you have.
And that's for next year. I think what we came up with a little bit too late, which I should have thought of sooner. But we could have polled the audience, as it were, and asked for kind of rankings. We could have said, "What's your favorite cereal?" and kind of done rankings based on the responses we had. But live and learn. This is our first year doing this, so it'll be more finely tuned as we go forward. And honestly, the other thing I thought of. We could do the same bracket every single year with different seeding. We might get a different – because I thought about that too. I was like, well, we don't have to do it. It's not like a different sport every March Madness. It's the same teams. It's just different teams get in and different teams get bounced. So it could be fun to do as an annual tradition. But
I think we're going to switch it up and into different things possibly. But you never know. I mean, you can always go – you could add some different cereal, like some cereals could get relegated out of the bracket, like we were making fun of Life. Like, get out of here, Life. You don't belong in this tournament. Same thing with Grape Nuts or whatever the case. I think Frosted Flakes, had they been in the bracket in the quadrant with Cheerios, they might go all the way to the Final Four. Just looking at the bracket.
Very sad that one of my childhood favorites, O's, did not make the tournament. They are underrated. A lot of people have never had them, but you're missing out. They are phenomenal. And I'm very upset. Hopefully a bad year, a lot of injuries maybe. Who knows? They didn't make it. Just, even Duke missed the tournament this year, so maybe next year. So this week we're going to post these results and the matchups for the Sweet 16 on our probably on Facebook, I think, and asked for your vote. So basically for the Sweet 16, it's going to be I'm going to vote, Jose is going to get a vote, and then you, the audience, is going to get a collective vote. So there's never going to be we need a tiebreaker going through all these matchups because it's too much for us to just there's going to be a stalemate where Jose and I are going to butt heads and not relinquish our vote. So this was hard enough. I do look forward to it, but I'm also dreading it because it's going to be a lot of tough decisions to be made, a lot of tough matchups coming up. And so stick around, stay tuned for that. That'll be on Facebook and some other various places over the course of the week. So very, very, very excited for the Sweet 16 in our March Madness breakfast cereal brackets. And that's going to do it. So thanks for sticking around. iHeartRadio podcasting, Amazon podcasts, Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, at the BW Pod on Twitter. You can even email us your vote if you'd like. The Benchwarmers podcast at yahoo.com. Benchwarmers with a Z for marketing purposes. And so that's going to do it. So for Jose Ortiz, I am Lou Ruggieri, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.